There's a lot of people in the fitness community who believe that bands are a complete gimmick. It's just a marketing ploy trying to make all kinds of money, and they don't actually work. Straight weight is the only way to make strength gains. And when I hear these comments, it's like, bro, do you even exercise science? Do you even physics? Do you even anecdote? So in this video today, I'll be talking about the benefits of bands, basically debunking all the lies that you've been taught and hopefully convincing you to get your own. Before I start my message, I want to say right off the bat that I am not affiliated with any band companies. So before someone says, oh, you're trying to sell bands, no, motherfucker. I don't make a single penny from talking about bands, okay? Unless you're talking about this video right now that's being monetized. So that said, let's start discussing it. First and foremost, you're going to have a lot of morons who claim that band tension is not real, that it's just an imaginary thing. The only thing that counts is actual numbers on a barbell, so you need weight plates to do that. And honestly, these guys have no idea what the fuck they're talking about, because band tension is actually an exact science. We can measure it perfectly. In fact, if you go to the Elite FTS website or just on Google Images and you type in band tension chart, you will see for the different bands, whether it be mini band, monster mini band, light, average, strong, whatever, you'll see the exact tensions per centimeter stretch. So if I stretch out a band this much, you'll have the exact number. If you stretch it out this much, it'll have the exact number. There are people who have taken the time to create charts for you. And it's an exact fucking science. You can measure yourself. Bring the bands to the gym, hook it up to a like a scale of some sort, and measure it. I've done it myself. I've taken the band, measured on the scale, and I can know what my fucking tensions are. That said, if someone is doing a 400-pound deadlift and he has 260 pound of band tension at lockout, well, that's 660 at the top. It'll be 660 at the top and either like high 400s or low 500s at the bottom. That's just the way it works, man. So anyone who claims that it's false, that band tension isn't real, they should only use straight weight, they're a fucking idiot. They have no idea what they're talking about. And let me give you another example, right? If you look at Brian Shaw, when he uses his bands, he measures it with a luggage scale, which is pretty freaking genius if you ask me. So yeah, you could in fact measure band tension. It's an exact science, and if you do a lift with band tension, it's a proper lift. You can't say, oh, it's not a real weight, it's not because it's not straight weight, it doesn't count. No, it fucking counts. The only instance in which you can start debating is if it's a reverse band. Reverse band is a whole different story. But if we're talking about doubling bands from the bottom of a power rack, or like short bands, or just non-doubling bands, the tension is 1000% legit. So if you see me in my video saying, okay, it's 260 at lockout, 130 at the bottom, you can trust the tensions. And if you don't trust it, measure the shit yourself, you dumb motherfucker. Another argument that people are going to come up with is the fact that bands accommodate the resistance at the top. They will argue that because a raw lifter, whether it be a bencher, squatter, deadlift, or whatever, has trouble at the bottom, that bands don't work at all because it only makes the lockout harder. And again, when I hear this comment, it's like, dude, I know that you have no experience with bands. I could tell you for a flaming fact that you have never used bands, because anyone who's used it knows that there's tension throughout the entire lift. You're a fucking moron if you say otherwise. Real talk. You see, what people are getting mixed up with is with chains. With chains, there's only tension at the top because the chains actually deload at the bottom. But with bands, if you set them up properly, there will be tension throughout the entire lift. That's the only way to use bands. There should not be looseness at the bottom. So if I'm doing a bench press, right, with doubled mini bands, guess what? That's 85 pounds at the top of tension at lockout, 35 at the bottom. So tell me that, like, try to explain to me how I'm only building my top strength when it's adding 35 pounds of fucking tension out of the hole. So in other words, if I do a 305 pound bench press, that's 340 off the chest. And at lockout, it's going to be 390. You see my point? So isn't that a really good way to build strength? 340 off the chest, 390 at lockout. How can you tell me that this is not going to build bottom strength? Again, it's just theory bullshit. People have never used bands. They don't know the exact tensions. They're just talking out of their ass. Again, measure it yourself. I'm going to keep telling you guys in this video to measure it yourself. Stretch out the bands to the chest level. See how much tension there is. You'll find that there's a lot of tension off the chest. Of course, I understand that the lockout is going to be the most difficult part. I am fully aware of this concept. But to state that it does not build bottom strength is foolishness, especially if we're talking about mini bands and monster mini bands. You know, even light bands add a lot of tension off the chest, believe it or not. It's only when you start doing a reverse band and stuff like that. And that's, people have to stop comparing reverse band to regular band. There's a total difference between the two, all right? And this is going to bring me on to another point, right? What a lot of people fail to understand is that bands brings you down faster than the speed of gravity, right? Because it's pulling you down, it's not just lowering the weight that's gonna bring the weight down. It's pulling. So you have a double effect here, and the result is what we call overspeed eccentrics, which is a term coined by Louis Simmons. Now, essentially what you're doing is you're increasing kinetic energy through this higher velocity, right? And what's happening is you're inducing a very powerful stretch reflex at the bottom. So if you do a band bench press, the fact that you have to lower it so quickly is going to initiate a very powerful stretch reflex in the chest, which is going to allow you to build bottom strength in a very meaningful way. So yes, bands do build bottom strength. They do so very effectively. It allows you to get a maximum stretch reflex, which is very good for sport, might I add. And for those of you saying the stretch reflex is bullshit, well, are you aware that in a pause bench press, you still have the stretch reflex? If you hold it for like 1 to 2 seconds, you're still having the stretch reflex. So yeah, it is in your best fucking interest to include movements that have a stretch reflex. And I argue that the bench press with bands is superior to the touch and go bench press, simply because of the fact that you could maximize the stretch reflex. You will get a better stretch reflex with bands. Undeniable, all right? Because you are going down faster than the speed of gravity, initiating a very powerful stretch reflex. That's just physics, baby. And if you don't believe me, read a fucking physics book before you talk that bullshit, all right? So that's another point supporting bands. What about something else? Okay, let's talk about the stabilization aspect. You ever seen a guy use bands for the first time? Typically, it's going to go like this. They're going to unrack it, and it's going to be shaking all over the place. If a lifter has this problem, that's something that needs to be addressed. If you saw my video a few days ago, strength, like strong lifters are stable, you'll know why stabilization is key in getting strong, right? So bands is going to correct that. You best believe. If you do exclusively band work, when you go do a regular bench press, it's going to be fucking easy, bro. There's going to be no shaking. You're going to be extremely stable. You'll be pressing with the right muscle groups. No injuries are going to occur. It's going to be a beautiful thing. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that from before, the overspeed eccentrics is going to develop the connective tissue. It's a lot better on your muscles, it's a lot better on your recovery than if you slowly bring the shit down. Okay, so you actually get better recovery from using bands. That's another point that people don't really talk about. So that said, what's another benefit of bands? Well, guess what? They reduce bar deceleration. Now, bar deceleration essentially is basically you're going through a range of motion, right? And advantageous joint angles come to play. So what happens? You start producing less force. So then the bar speed slows down. That's how it works, right? Well, guess what? When you have bands on, because it accommodates the resistance, it accommodates all the joint angles, you will actually push the deceleration curve much higher. So if you have bar speed slow down mid-chest, with bands, it's going to push it a little bit higher than that point. So guess what? It's actually going to allow you to break through sticking points in a lift. It's going to allow you to break through sticking points and become more explosive. That is why dynamic effort work is superior when you use bands, because it reduces bar deceleration. That's why Olympic weightlifters, a lot of them, should be using bands. And if you look at some of the good ones, they are, in fact, using bands. Because Olympic weightlifting has tremendous bar deceleration when you do these lifts. All right? So if you attach bands to the exercise, you push the deceleration curve much higher, you get to become more explosive as a result. So, again, this is just science. You could do all the research yourself. I'm not inventing any of this shit. This is not bro science. This is fucking fact. So bands will push the deceleration curve much higher, so you become more explosive throughout the entire range of motion. That's why when a guy says, you know, just do 65, 70, 75% 3-week pendulum wave, no bands, they're full of shit. Because it's actually better to do it with a lighter percentage, but add band tension. This way you can become more explosive with every fucking rep. And that's why speed pulls are superior with bands. That's why a lot of great pullers do speed pulls, right? Now I know some people are going to say, well, what about this deadlift? He doesn't do fucking speed pulls. I don't care what X guy does. I want to know, does the shit work? Is the shit effective? And yes, speed pulls with bands are very fucking effective. It allows you to push the deceleration curve much higher, so you break through sticking points, you're more explosive. And as we all know, in a deadlift, explosiveness is fucking key. If you can get that shit off the floor at a fast rate, you can lock that motherfucker. So yeah, it's definitely very important to be doing these explosive lifts with the bands. And then one final benefit of the bands is the fact that you're going to get stupid jacked doing it. Okay, especially in the triceps area if we're talking about the bench press. Because, like I said, it's going to accommodate the resistance such that you're kind of combining a partial and a full range lift. So if I do, going back to the example of the mini bands, double mini bands with 305, well, it's going to be 340 off the chest, 390 at lockout. So I can overload my triceps with 390 pounds of weight at the top, which I wouldn't have been able to do normally. The result is that your triceps will get bigger. And that's another reason why bodybuilders should be using bands. If my goal was bodybuilding training, I would be doing a lot of close convention bands. I would do exercises that accommodate resistance. It's so much better to do this. It's better than doing like accommodating resistance than doing fucking half rep bench presses, am I right? Isn't it better to do a full range of motion bench, still strengthening the entire lift, but now you're overloading the top too? Isn't that superior, you know, than doing like a fucking quarter pin press? Think about what I'm saying here. So bands have bodybuilding benefits, and that's why when I first started using those motherfuckers, I started blowing up in size. The first thing I noticed was my triceps were getting bigger. I know they stalled down in size, but yeah, they did improve in size when I started using the bands. And even my upper back got bigger, believe it or not, because as I've said in multiple videos, the traps are a stabilizing muscle group. So if you can make it more unstable, you're going to get more jacked. So if you do banded rack pulls, for instance, oh, you'll definitely feel it. And that's another thing. Traps grow through stretch, right? When you add bands to an exercise, because it's pulling you down so hard, it further amplifies the stretch. So you can see what I'm saying here. Bands have hypertrophy benefits, they have strength benefits, they have injury prevention benefits, they have explosive benefits. What else can I fucking say? Where's the gimmick in bands? None. Bands will revolutionize your training. There's a reason why Louis Simmons has been preaching them for I don't know how fucking long, for many decades, you know? He knows bands. He knows that they're effective. And again, the science is supported, the physics is supported. There's no bro science in this video. So, tell me how bands are gimmick, man. Explain it to me. I'd like to hear your counter arguments. But chances are, no one's going to respond to it. They're just going to say, oh, fuck you, man, bands are gimmick. Because that's what ignorant people do. Ignorant people don't look at the facts. They don't deal with logic. They deal with emotions, and they can't fucking think. So, use your common sense. If you think that what I said in this video makes sense, then give me your feedback down below. And that's it for today. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know, and I'll talk to you all next time.